Hey there, everybody. I am back again with just a little tutorial video. Not really a tutorial, but it's more like a thing where it's just like, hey, this is patch 4.3. If you haven't played a Fire Mage before, it's pretty great. Here's just some like it's pretty much like I'm pretty much just gonna give like an overview of each of the specs, like in individual videos, and then hopefully this will help you decide like which spec you want to be, because I mean you have options between all three of these specs and which one you want to be, which one you want to actually work on a lot. So first of all, if you have Arcane, you got Fire, you got Frost. They're all DPS specs, but Arcane and Fire are the ones that are most expected, especially for dungeons and raids. If you're Frost, you will either get laughed at or you'll get kicked, mostly because Frost just does less damage than Fire and Arcane. Frost is more for PvP, really. But it is viable for even raid situations, which I will actually be showing to you in another video when I show you guys the Frost spec. But first off, today, or tonight actually, we're going to be working on the Fire spec. Now, just to let you guys sort of get an overview of that, like just look at it, whatever, and look at all the different things. I mean, Fire is pretty much predominantly based around dots and crits. I mean, of all the specs, this is the one that like, I mean, this Frost has like one dot that you use, but this one is the one that like most of your DPS is going to be from dots, which are actually caused by crits. So then we'll talk about the stats and all that later. But first off, we're going to actually talk about the stat priorities. First off, you have Intellect. Any kind of caster class, Intellect is your main thing. Always stack Intellect. Um, then after you get like Intellect, like after you realize, okay, well, I'm now going to reforge some stats and all that, the first thing that you want to focus on is crit. Crit above everything else. Mastery, haste. You would think mastery would be good because with our mastery, it increases the damage done by all your periodic fire damage effects by X% or whatever. I don't really remember what the base was since I've increased it and all that with gear, but it'll increase it by 2.8% for each point of mastery, which is great because if you ever like look at your damage with recount or Scada, which I have right there by the way, it'll say like your top three damaging spells are like Fireball, Ignite, and then Living Balm. Two of those are your dots. So it's understandable why you would want to stack a lot of mastery, but to be able to get a lot of stuff from mastery, like to get those dots, you really have to have crit because of one very important talent here, Ignite. Your critical strike from non-periodic fire damage spells, which will pretty much be your Scorch, Fireball, and Pyroblast, cause the target to burn for an additional 40% of your spell's damage over 4 seconds. So for example, if I hit a 40k Fireball, that means Ignite will burn for like what, 20,000 damage, like 18,000, something around that point, and take off there, which is great. And if you keep critting, that Ignite thing will keep on going, and that's just pretty much an all-around buff that you'll have on the target, and you do more damage. And because of all those dots, you have one very important ability here that is the most amazing mage cooldown you will ever find. And I think even with Mist of Pandaria coming out, Combustion is still the best cooldown that you'll have. Basically what it does is that it combines all your fire debuffs from your person, like no other mage, it's just yours, on the target, and combines them into one debuff that will then tick away. And it will tick for a good bit, depending on how much each dot is worth. So you'll have Living Balm, which is a standard, which is like a constant. Pyroblast, which will be pretty much a constant dot. But then Ignite, which varies depending on the spell damage. So it's optimal to use it whenever your Pyroblast crits. And it's even more optimal if you actually have a special ability, like a proc or something like that, going like increased spell power, etc., etc. But yeah, so this is pretty much the fire spec. I mean, it focuses mostly on critting off of Fireball, and then whenever Hot Streak procs, that's when you use your Pyroblast. Because pretty much if you either, like you have a, like just a, what is it, percentage chance. Okay, there's no really percentage chance. It's just you have a chance with every Fireball you can read that you will be able to get a free Pyroblast off, which means it's instant cast, and it costs no mana. And if you look at Pyroblast here, it has a 3.08 second cast time compared to Fireball, which has only 2.2. So You would never would just want to spam like actually cast Pyroblast just to get the dot on the target, unless you're just having like really bad luck and you really need to get combustion off. Like if it's like an increased damage phase, then it's understandable why you would use that. Other than that, you only want to use it whenever Hot Streak procs. And also, it can if you put it into proof Hot Streak, which is pretty much mandatory for Fire Spec, any 2 non-periodic critical strikes in a row. It used to be that it would actually proc off of dots as well, which was actually really nice from like Living Bomb. If Living Bomb crit twice in a row, beautiful. But that doesn't happen anymore, which really pisses me off. Anyway, so moving on. So basically your rotation will start out like this. At the beginning of the fight, like let's say we're on Morchok. Morchok is pretty much the simplest fight to talk about because it's pretty much just a tank and spank, except for some range, but we're just going to say that we're not having to move. Like there's extra range and they're all doing the orb and you just get to sit there all day and look pretty. So you want to begin the fight with mirror images, which will create the 3 copies of you, and that'll just increase your damage overall, no other buffs to you personally. Flame Orb. Flame Orb is great because when it crits, it actually puts the ignite dot on it. Cause I'm pretty sure it actually puts it. Yeah, because it's non-periodic damage. So any fire spell that can crit that's non-periodic will put a dot on there, which is great for in the beginning if you can't seem to get a crit going. Then throw a Living Bomb on the target, and that's pretty much the dot you'll keep on keeping up there. But do not just like refresh it like you would Corruption or something like that. Only put it back on once the original one wears off, because when Living Bomb wears off, it does extra damage when it blows up, and it'll also hurt any mobs that are right next to it. Then you start with Scorch, and that will actually give you this right here, Critical Mass, which will increase the damage. Yeah, it increases the chance to crit on that target, for everyone to crit on that target by 5%, which is great. So, and also Pyroblast will do that too. So if you have good luck, you shouldn't have to really cast Scorch more than once unless you're having to move around for a fight, which we'll get into in a minute. So, once you get that Scorch going, you just spam Fireball. And then once Living Bomb goes down, cast Living Bomb. Again, once Flame Orb comes off cooldown, use that. Once Mirror Images comes off cooldown, etc., etc. Once your cooldowns come off, use them immediately. Unless it's like Hagara, where she'll just like go into like a invincible phase, pretty much. Then it's kind of pointless to do that. The only one that you actually want to wait to use, even when it comes off cooldown, is Combustion. Just because it does combine all those dots together, and you want the most amount of damage possible. So you want at least a crit from a Fireball, if not a Pyroblast. If you can't get that Pyroblast crit, just if you have an Ignite on there, Living Bomb, and you have the Pyroblast dot, just go ahead and throw it up there. Just go ahead and throw Combustion. Excuse me. And be all good to go. So I'm just going to give you like a little preview of what it can do if you just watch this. Now, it may not go well because you will get very unlucky sometimes with crits. So, cast Mirror Images, get the Flame Orb going. Got Scorch. See, now do that. See, already got Ignite. That's just from my weapon, which does... now, the damage will go up a little by a good bit. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted right there. No, damn it. Okay, so I made a mistake there. Basically, what I did is that I thought I had pressed Living Bomb, but I really didn't. But it really doesn't matter because, look at that, still at 40k DPS. Now, it does help that I accidentally spread my fire damage. I really wish there was another training dummy that did not have other enemies next to it, because that sort of messes it up a little bit. But as you can see, it still does really good damage. And so see, I don't have to refresh the critical mass yet with Scorch, just because of the fact that I had those Pyroblasts and all that. But see, now I'm hitting that sort of streak where like I'm not hitting anything. Like I'm hitting them a little bit. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted. And for some reason, with my trinket, it does not like to hit the target I'm hitting. It'll hit the second target. Oh, well, there it goes. Now the lightning bolt actually hit it. But anyway, so see, now I'm pretty much just sort of steadying out at 30k. Which is not bad, don't get me wrong. 30k is still fantastic. But yeah, so that is pretty much your DPS rotation. Mirror Images, Flame Orb, Living Bomb, always keep that up. Scorch to start out with, and then spam Fireball. When that procs, hit it. All the dots on the enemy, which I made a mistake on. Use Combustion. It's a very easy spec. once you get the hang of it. But if you're like going from Arcane to Fire, it can be very difficult, just because of the fact that it's really difficult to go from the mindset of maintaining mana. Because see, that's what Arcane focuses on. Arcane focuses more on maintaining mana, but one button spamming. And so you're focusing more on your own personal character rather than just the damage output and keeping dots up. Fire is different because you don't. It doesn't really matter until you actually start getting lower in mana when you actually have to use Evocate and things like that. So you can pretty much just burst away and just focus more on the dots and making sure everything is good to go. But that's really about it for the Fire spec. I'm just going to go over a couple more quick things. You have some options with your talents. Like, you'll notice I put 2 points into clear casting, or sorry, Arcane Concentration, which actually causes clear casting. So I only have 2 points in there, and that basically gives me a 6% chance of entering a clear casting save after any damage spell hits a target. Basically what it does is it makes my next spell that actually has a mana cost 0 mana. Or actually the next damage spell by 100%. So, that's great for long fights like Deathwing, raid bosses pretty much, is because whenever that procs, I get a free whatever off, no mana, which is fantastic for those long fights, especially Deathwing, which takes quite a bit of time. And I mean, you can only evocate every 4 minutes, because you're not spectating into Arcane. If you're Arcane, then it's only 2 minutes. And on top of that, if you wanted to, like if you're doing mostly like heroic dungeons and all that, and you're just mostly focusing on mobs more than anything, personally, I would recommend putting points into Improved Fire Blast. Because what that does is it will increase the critical strike chance of your fireball, or your fire blast, I mean, which is great, because whenever you're having to move around or whatever, you can use Fire Blast. And see, also Hot Streak, Fire Blast can also proc off Fire Blast, so it's great if you can Scorch, like if you're having to move around a lot, like in Deathwing or in against Agara, you can Scorch, and then you can also use Fire Blast as well, and hopefully you can get either 2 periodic crits or just get Fire Blast to do more damage if it does crit, and hopefully get a Fire Blast. Impact is not necessary, but it is a fantastic talent to have. Absolutely fantastic. Because on Aoe abilities, basically and you saw me do it there for a second, like when you saw like the little fire thing up top, like the ones on the sides were Pyro Blast, the one on the top was the impact thing. Basically what it does is that it'll take whatever fire damage dots I have on my current target and it will spread them to all of them around me. The only problem is they sort of nerfed this a little bit, which kind of made me a little sad, but it's whatever. Living Bomb can only be on 3 targets at once. It used to be it could be on unlimited targets, which means that if you had Living Bomb and there was like 20 mobs or something like that, you spread all those dots around, and then when they all exploded, oh my god, it was a glorious amount of DPS. But they kind of nerfed that, which pissed me off, but whatever. Enough about my problems. You can spec into Improved Flame Strike, because it's really nice for like whenever you have to AoE ads down or something like that, which is pretty prevalent on a good bit of bosses. Like especially on Deathwing when you have to AoE down the hemorrhages. It's great because all you gotta do is let's show it on these guys over here. Okay, so you got that. And then you can just sort of get your hotkey ready and then just spam it. And see, just constantly doing damage here. 20k right there. And it's, even though it drains your mana, it's still great. And all you have to do for that is just throw up mage armor when you're doing it, and you'll get some more of your mana back, so you're not just pretty much wasting it all on hemorrhages like a dumb. Other than that, there's really not much else to say about this spec, other than the fact that it is very fun. Just absolutely fun. Oh yeah, let's what the oh, I forgot to change this. Oh, god damn it. Okay, well, you guys actually get to see me respec. I originally was Frost or whatever at one point on this character and was just testing it out for a PvE, and I totally forgot to change the thing. That's probably why I wasn't even doing as much damage, and I gotta reload the UI. Cool. That's fantastic. So professional. Jeez, could I not be any more professional than this? So, you'll want a Fireball. Increases the critical strike chance. Maybe that's why I wasn't critting so much with it. And now you have 2 options here. Pyroblast, the Glyph of Pyroblast, which increases its crit chance by 5%, which is great because if you get it to crit more often, that means you get a bigger ignite chance. Or you could do increase the damage of Living Bomb, which is also good considering you have that up during the whole fight. Molten Armor is pretty much a mandatory one. I mean, you could go with just Living Bomb and Power Blast and call it a day, but Molten Armor is really where it's at, because even though it increases Power Blast's crit chance by 5, this increases your total crit chance by 2, which is always fantastic. I'm just going to go with Living Bomb, just because Living Bomb is, especially for raid bosses when you have that up all the time, it's fantastic. I need more Dust Disappearance, but I'll actually do that off camera. These two are pretty much good to go. I mean, you really don't need any other ones other than Glyph of Invisibility, which just increases your movement speed by when you're invisible. And then the Glyph of Vivification, though, is actually pretty much a mandatory one. Like, it's a very good choice, just because of the fact that you regain health as well when you use it, which is great for if like healers are having trouble, or if you're like at an enrage point or whatever, and there's just a massive amount of AoE damage going out. Even if you have full mana, go ahead and use Vivificate just to help out the healers a little bit. This way that you're just one less person they have to worry about. And then you can also use Glyph of Polymorph if you're doing dungeons a lot and you're having to CC stuff. Mana Shield, not really necessary, but I mean, I guess you could use it. What is the cooldown on it? 12 seconds. Okay, useless. I mean, Blink, you could use that, but really not worth it. Frost Nova, not even worth it. Blast Wave or Dragon's Breath are both very good choices. Dragon's Breath just because of the fact that any kind of AoE things, now you can use it 3 seconds sooner. Blast Wave more for if you're still doing Fireland stuff and you have to help AoE down the little spire things on Beth Talak. Like the tiny little ones that just like scurry around, like it's like normally hunters and mages and all that who try to kill them. That's good because it increases its slowing effect by 1 second, which can actually mean a lot. 1 second may not sound like a lot, but it's actually a pretty good bit. And I'll do that another time, but the next video will actually be on Arcane, so I'll have to put all my stupid Arcane ones on. That'll be fun. And other than that, and I know I've said that like a billion times now, and there's that. But yeah, you're pretty much focusing on crit the whole entire time. See, so now with that Molten Armor thing, Molten Armor, 28.96% crit. There's a soft cap on crit, which is actually 32 or 33%. If you actually manage to get to that point, then just forget about crit and just throw into Mastery. Which reminds me, we need to go back into the stat priorities. So first of all, you have Intellect, as I said, and then crit. After crit, like after you maximize crit as much as you possibly can, without having to gem just straight crit, Reforge into haste, or Reforge into Mastery. Reforge all haste and all extra crit into Mastery. Reforge anything, like mostly haste. I mean, if you have haste on an item like here, haste. I have haste on this item here, Reforged it to crit. Got haste on that item, Reforged it to hit. Most of the important things, but you do want to get hit up to 17% if you're going to be doing raids. I really don't remember what the percentage is for 87, for like level 87 mobs, but it's a lot lower than 17. It's like 11% or something like that, because you don't have to be that high, but once you get to raids and all that, you need to have 17%, otherwise you'll start missing spells, and it's bad news bears. It really is. Also, this is my little pirate outfit. Looking pretty sexy, I know. And that's it. Next time, I'll be showing you the Arcane Spec, which is a very fun spec, by the way, but it requires you standing completely still to maximize your DPS, which is different than Fire, because Fire you can move around a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, and hopefully everything will work out. Y'all have a wonderful night.